Welcome to Our Next Existence by Katie and the Chorus. I'm Katie, former technology strategist turned reluctant spiritual medium, and I channel messages from the Chorus, a group of beings just beyond our sensory perceptions who are loving, expansive, and who greatly enjoy sharing their perspective of us. Join us each week as we share and discuss their ideas about humanity's existence, purpose, and future. Concepts you can draw from to accelerate your path, expand your perceptions, and ultimately step into the flow of the universe and your life. What do you do when you are trying to avoid something? It's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to be aware of. These are powerful expressions of who you are and their powerful experiences of being human. I binge watch TV shows. There was a period of my life in the beginning when I started channeling the Chorus, and I, in some ways, had no idea what the hell was happening to me, where I was really binging on Vampire Diaries. There was a phase of Pop-Tarts as well. Ugh. That was not a great one. It was like 2 to 4 Pop-Tarts a night. That was the Pop-Tart phase. And then there was also a retail therapy phase. Actually, that one still comes and goes. Let's be honest. That's kind of where I go. Window shopping and looking at beautiful things is a fantastic way to avoid things that I know are coming. And as your intuition grows, you will have more and more powerful, more clear experiences of things that are coming. And as we're expanding and kind of balancing out and stretching into this new place, there's still going to be a part of your brain that is going to say, I don't know what the hell that is or what's coming. I need Pop-Tarts. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Our growing intuitions and our growing understanding of that ability. So in the first part of the episode, as is customary, you'll hear directly from the Chorus themselves, and then afterwards we will discuss their message. So without further ado, I give you the Chorus. In the beginning, it was not so easy for a human to understand many of these concepts which we have been sharing with you. For disconnected as you were from the perspective of the infinite universe, it would have been difficult to describe to you more about what is in the infinite universe. Now, however, as you are already awakening and have been for some time, you are closer to these frequencies where you can understand things that might exist, quote unquote, out there, or things that might exist within you, around you, about you, that you are perhaps not totally clear on. Humanity's trajectory has been one of increasing limitation until recent epochs in which many of you have decided it is time to awaken. Awakening is not a predestination. It is an option that has always been there. For though humans have ideas about earning, working, or achieving in order to get the thing that you would like to have, in an energetic universe, all things are given to you instantly, freely, and effortlessly. Thus, you could awaken at any second, at any point in your existence here. Awakening is a choice. Each and every creation who has participated here and is participating here is given the option at every moment in time to participate in these frequencies or not. there are many who continue to benefit from the expansive experiences of limitation which you all have created here. There are others who will continue to participate in this limitation up until, you might say, the final minutes of the game. It would be very difficult for you, in your five senses perspective, to look at other humans and know or predict if or how they are awakening. This is because here in your experience of limitation, there are actually quite a limited number of possible manifestations. We know this may sound strange to you, for your world, your day-to-day reality, can seem quite diverse in terms of days, weather, events, people, colors, textiles, things you create, conversations you have. They each seem so different to you. But from our vantage point, in more of the free-flowing energy of the universe, these things are, in actuality, quite constrained. As we have mentioned before, your physical formats change very little moment to moment, let alone over the course of your entire lifetimes. Your environment also changes very little over the course of your existence within it. Though you have become aware of the massive movements of planets and solar systems and tectonic plates, what the casual observer, you could say, observes over the course of their lifetime is perhaps the coming and going of plants, perhaps the coming and going of clouds and the sun, but the bulk of the remainder of the environment stays relatively the same. This is also true of your day-to-day activities. While you see a wide variety of things happening, we see a group of humans who continue to eat over and over and over again, multiple times a day, let alone the hundreds of times they do it in the course of their lives. We also see that you exchange squeaks and whistles, our teasing name for your physical verbal languages, over and over and over again. Though you see a great deal of difference in the context, in the sounds of the squeaks and whistles and the conversations themselves, from our vantage point, you must continually exchange relatively the same words in different combinations over and over again. It is not often that new words are created and adopted wholesale by an entire group of people who speak that language. Language evolves slowly. Concepts evolve slowly. You are right in your acknowledgement or notification that things have begun to accelerate in recent years, that the pace of creation is increasing. That is, there are new ideas, new inventions, new technologies, and new ways of doing things that seem to crop up more often than they appear to have done throughout your history or throughout the remembered history. This would be a valid perspective, but also there is another way of looking at your existence in which even within your evolution and the development of your new technologies, that is also constrained. Beloved ones, this is not a thing for you to fight against or to try to do more faster and better. Rather, it is to bring your consciousness to the awareness of what you have been existent within. And by doing that, you are given more perspective, more freedom, and more choice ahead on your path. If you are feeling a little tired of a human existence, that perspective would be valid, for that is the part of you who is expanding beyond this experience and who is ready for more and different. Does that mean that you must attack, disassemble, or otherwise do away with the human existence that you have had thus far? No, beloved ones. It simply means that you are ready to come into an awareness of your energetic tool set, of the ways in which that you navigate energy, even here, and how you will do so as you expand beyond this experience. Leave it intact for those who continue to wish to play. Leave it intact for the appreciation of everything that it has given you. Rather, when you feel yourselves focusing, judging, becoming frustrated with the limitations that you are becoming increasingly aware of, instead, congratulate yourselves for noticing them, for there was a great many epochs, a great many millennia in which you had no idea that these things were even happening. Thus, we will begin to share with you more of these energetic tools. For beloved ones, it is time. As we have mentioned before, we could continue the tour of your massive belief system complex. And by reviewing a great many of the beliefs that have here constructed your reality, we would pleasantly spend only a few million more years in doing so at the pace of your squeaks and whistles and mind. Or perhaps, if you are feeling ready, it is time to instead begin to explore all that is within you and around you that you have been purposefully ignoring all of this time. And there is no more appropriate tool, there is no more appropriate skill set to begin with than that of your intuition. Intuition is a term often used by humans of your day and time, for there is a sense that intuition has an ability, a knowing, that is not always possible by the mind and the thinking and the judgments. And this is true. We would like to describe to you what intuition is energetically so that bringing this concept to consciousness might help you in growing your relationship with your own intuition. Intuition is the ability to connect to the energetic underpinnings of the game itself. Intuition moves beyond the frequencies of the five senses to, you might say, a larger frequency of what is happening in the moment. An analogy might be that while your five senses are tactical or execute the moment, the action, the manifestation, intuition is more thematic. Intuition is sensing what the underlying energy is of a moment or of a situation that is then translating down into those specific manifestations. The reason it has been so hard for humanity to hear, as you often say, your intuition, is because there have been a great many beliefs in the belief system complex that cause you to narrow your perceptions down to what is on the five senses wavelengths. This was purposefully done because this was the epitome or the objective of your experience here, to blind yourselves to all other frequencies. Therefore, in your massive galactic belief system complex, you can imagine there are many things that tell you to dismiss any other sensations, feelings, or perceptions that are not on the frequencies of the five senses. As you have begun to awaken, those barriers or boundaries around the five senses, you could say, have begun to soften. And in so doing, you are giving yourselves more access than you have had to the perception of energetic things. The first of which is, of course, the energetic meaning, the energetic infrastructure that is beneath or holding up the manifestations that you are perceiving on the five senses. This intuition will tell you things that is sometimes contradicted by what you might otherwise have perceived. For example, you may be having a conversation with someone who seems very happy and buoyant, but you find yourself feeling a sense of tension or a sense of anxiety in your chest region. This is your mind body instrument's ability to perceive the energetic quality of an interaction. You might be surprised to find that that energetic and buoyant person, on the five senses perspective, on the energetic perspective, is actually quite nervous or quite tense. As you recognize these things, you will, of course, activate a great deal of other limiting beliefs for a time. There will be a part of you that will tell you to dismiss the intuition that you have just perceived. There will be a part of you that will still take an action based on the five senses perception over and above the intuitive. That is all right, beloved ones. The first step in awakening to these abilities is simply the recognition that they are there. There is no action required. You are not suddenly mandated to experience your days based on intuition alone, though there may be a part of you that wishes for that, and that would be the part of you that is judging the five senses to be more insufficient than this new skill to which you are awakening. Beloved ones, we would suggest that you will benefit by allowing both to exist simultaneously, because this is the experience that you are moving into, not a shift away from more energies into a different limited experience, but rather an expanded consciousness that can take in perfectly well two or more or many infinite types of energy. And in this case, you are giving yourselves the experience of simultaneously noting or becoming conscious of the frequencies of the limited five senses perspective of a moment, as well as the energetic, intuitive perspective of a moment. Neither is better or worse. You have one that you prefer, and that preference will tell you the direction in which you are heading. But no longer, beloved ones, is there anything that you do not wish that you must push against. That is wholly and completely the experience of a human life, reinforcing energetically that which you do not wish. There is so much more we will be sharing with you on these topics, and there is so much more, beloved ones, that you yourselves will begin to notice in your days. Congratulate yourselves for these observations, celebrate that they are happening, and then kick up your feet and relax, for awakening is well underway, and from our vantage point, you are doing it perfectly. There's a scene in one of the Harry Potter movies, I think it's the Half-Blood Prince, where Harry and his friends are trying to find something out from one of the professors, and they drink, or Harry drinks, a little bit of a very rare, very valuable potion. It's called a good luck potion. Felix Felicis, something like that. Anyways, for whoever drinks it, it brings them extraordinary good luck for some period of time. And so his friends say, right, the professor goes here and he does this time of night. And Harry drinks the potion and he goes, sure, I'm off to visit Hagrid. And he goes in the complete opposite direction of where he should have gone, or so they reasoned, in order to find out what they wanted to find out. And over a series of very serendipitous events, multiple things get accomplished in a way none of them could have known about in advance or expected. So he runs into the professor who's in the middle of stealing something, and they go to see Hagrid, who one of his animal friends has just perished. And Harry didn't know that, but he was there to support Hagrid, and on and on. I remember watching that and just being like, yes. How do I live my life like that without a potion? How do I just know somewhere inside of me that I can just go in the opposite direction of where all the thinking says I should go, and it just works out? So I have a question for you. Is intuition the good luck potion? If we were able to follow our intuition all the time, would it be just as magical and irrationally serendipitous as that scene in Harry Potter? So this week, the chorus said, all right, guys, enough with touring your belief systems because that's going to kind of start to feel redundant. There's a whole lot of not in a human belief system, not trusting, not in control, many other knots, many other limitations, many other things. They said, so let's move on from that and start to explore more about what is beyond this game and this experience of limitation that you volunteered for in order to have a most expansive experience. And now you are awakening that is expanding beyond that point of limitation. And let's start to talk about that. And there was this little part inside of me that was like, yay! Because I don't know if you felt it, but in the last 2 podcast episodes about beliefs, it is both clarifying and heavy. Did you feel it? There's a density to our beliefs, to the way in which we experience reality here. And I know that some of you have started to feel this because there is a sort of growing awareness of how hard, of the strain, of the struggle that can sometimes epitomize having really human moments full of judgment and thinking and rationalizations, right? And there are parts of it that even feel beautiful, that feel like a release of those things, a softening of those things. But also there's a density, isn't there? Do you feel it? So now keep that in mind as we begin to go through this topic and the topics that follow. And if you don't feel the difference yet, I do believe you will start to. And so the first topic that they're kind of stepping out beyond the belief system with is intuition. And that is no coincidence because intuition is that first energetic layer of ourselves that perceives something that is beyond what we are seeing or hearing or tasting or touching. And I think the Course gave a really perfect example of an intuitive moment in that you might be having a conversation with a friend and the 5 senses, so what their tone of voice is, the way their facial expressions are moving, so everything you might be seeing or hearing is telling you that this person is happy and really, really buoyant, using their word. But then at the same time, there is a sense that comes to you of tension or of anxiety. Now, they simplified this example by saying, oh, intuitively, what you're picking up on is how your friend is really feeling. But I think there's a few more steps involved for a human as we get to know our intuition. Because, I mean, not least of which in that example, I might suggest from a human perspective that you'll start to feel tense and anxious and you won't know where it's coming from. You'll think to yourself, I'm really worried about work today. Something will fill in to reason why you're feeling that way. And it's not always the actual direction that sensation is coming from, not in the early days. So let's slow down their understanding and concept of intuition a little bit more at a human pace and walk through how you expand into intuition, how that understanding of that energetic part of yourself grows, and then, most importantly, what to do with it. Okay, so let's start from the top. And I guess I'm feeling a little businessy, a little structured thinking today because I broke it into kind of three parts. And if you're like, ugh, Katie, buzzkill, I was just floating along and now you're making me think in three steps. Sorry, I tend to be a structured thinker. Hopefully it all makes sense. We'll roll through it. So, in expanding into your intuition, in my experience, the very first step is something that they also alluded to, which is to understand that it exists, that it is existent, to recognize, to have actual experiences of a sensation that comes to you that is beyond what you are collecting from the five senses. If you look up intuition in the dictionary, it says a knowing that comes without inference or reasoning, as in there is a finite thought or fact that is received somehow. So you say, I know they're upset, right? And I think that is a great place to start with intuition because it gets along well with our belief systems because it's a little closer to manifestation. On the spectrum of manifestation, we often think about terms of the physical environment. So, a thing is a manifestation, a conversation is a manifestation, a new car is a manifestation. These are purely on the frequencies of the five senses. So I can see it, I can touch it, I can hear it, I can taste it, etc. In conversations with the chorus, their continuum of manifestations stretches a little farther out, which is they consider thoughts to be the first manifestation that we receive here. So the mind body instrument is made up of the five senses, but also is sort of the birth point of beliefs and thinking, and then everything that follows afterwards on the five senses. Therefore, a thought, a concrete thought, is the first manifestation. So when you have an intuition and it comes into your awareness as a real clear thought, that is your first step in terms of coming into acquaintance with your intuition because it's a thought. So it's playing nicely onto the frequencies of manifested experience that we have here. But it's ever so slightly beyond the bounds of that in terms of the thought might not be backed up by things that you have already perceived with your five senses. So you say, I just know she's upset. And your five senses, your thinking apparatus, your mind body instrument says, I don't know. She's not frowning. She's not crying. Her tone of voice sounds good. She hasn't told us that she's upset about anything lately, right? And it'll run down through all the physical manifestations that have already come to pass. And it'll say, there's nothing here. There's nothing in this data set that says that she would be upset right now. And then you say, yes, but I have an intuition that she is upset. This is your first step in getting to know intuition is you start to have these very concrete knowings or thoughts that really don't have any reason to accompany them. You know that the intuition is existent at this point. You recognize that you are receiving something that is beyond the five senses. And so, ping, you have just stepped up a level into your awareness that a thing exists, a perception, a tool, a skill of yours exists beyond the limitations of the five senses. Now, there's a part two of this first step of realizing that is existent is that it moves from being something finite into being just a feeling, right? So it's even more loose. It's even more nebulous. So it's still a thought in a way because you can name the feeling, but it's ever so gradually moving out of the bounds of thought. So I'll give you an example. Many of you who have started to follow your intuition are well aware of this. And often it's that your intuition is suggesting that you move in a particular direction or take some sort of action, but you don't know why. Okay. So the thought is still there in the terms of it's playing nicely with the five senses in terms of it's an action, but you don't have a reason for it. So, as opposed to saying, I know she's upset, right? Pretty finite. Now, you might not think so coming from a five senses standpoint. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's all gut feel. Okay. But now let me take it one step further and you say, I really got to go there. I got to go to that store. I got to take a trip. Or I really got to call that person. Or I really got to go do something. And someone would say, why? And you would say, I don't know. It's just a feeling. Do you see how that's a little more into the feeling aspect of an intuition? It's less about the thing you know, and it's more about the thing you are feeling. And there is an action appended to it, right? And so, again, still playing nicely, but ever so slightly further out on the scale from rational thought. It's just a feeling. And I got to go do something, or I'm somehow being motivated to some sort of action, but I don't know why. I just have an intuition. When you get to this part of it, I feel like you're really stepping through the first step of intuition in the sense that you've come from a place of recognizing you're getting this feeling, this knowing. You've been aware of the knowings and the things that just come to you. And you've expanded that even further into just letting the intuition be a feeling without anything concrete appended to it. So that's step one. It exists. It exists in maybe kind of a variety of formats, getting more and more loose, moving more and more away from thought and more into feeling. And this is where you get to step two in Katie's three-step intuition process, which I just made up. So take it for what it's worth and apply it to your own life in whatever way you see fit, or don't throw it all out the window. It's fine. But in my experience, the next step is sort of like this ongoing acknowledgement or experience of the intuition's accuracy in ways that you could not have predicted. So I'll give you an example. You have an intuition that you just need to go to a place, and you get in the car and you drive there. And let's say it's a store. And you walk in and you're sort of just unexpectant. You know that your intuition guided you there, and you're sort of just like, something's going to happen here, but I don't know what. So there is an expectation in the sense that you are anticipating that your intuition was right, but there's less of an expectation as to what that rightness could be, because there could be any number of topics in your life that this intuition could be directing you towards. And so you're walking around in the store And then your gaze is drawn to this thing on the shelf, and you realize that it's perfect for fill in the blank. It's perfect for this room in your house that you forgot you really wanted to finish decorating before someone came over. It's perfect for your friend who you forgot it's their birthday tomorrow. And how perfect is this that you went out and got a birthday gift because you totally forgot about it? Or it's perfect for fill in the blank, right? It applies to any area of your life of a thing that you somehow wanted, somehow thought about, somehow hoped would work out. And the more you have these experiences, the more you are stepping into that second phase of getting to know your intuition. The first just being the recognition that it's there and it exists and that you're getting a feeling of some sort that is disconnected from the five senses, to the second step, which is you are having conscious experiences of the intuition somehow being accurate, somehow being right, somehow being knowing in a way that your mind wasn't. So when you walk into the store and you see that thing, that's when your mind remembers it's your friend's birthday tomorrow. That's when your mind remembers that that is a perfect vase for that spot in your house that you had been wanting to find something for. You're recognizing that the mind is reacting to the physical manifestation. When the mind sees that manifestation, the mind goes, aha, it's perfect. But the intuition knew it somehow sooner. The intuition somehow directed you to that place and somehow directed you down that aisle in a very effortless kind of way, well before the mind had the thought of that thing. And so this accuracy, I think, extends from you sort of have a curiosity of like, what is this my intuition wants me to do? I don't know, but I really feel like I got to go to that store. So I'm just going to do it, right? You have this open curiosity. And the more experiences of this that you manifest, right? Because you're stacking up manifestations, then the more that curiosity moves to trust in the sense that you get a conscious recognition of that intuition and you say, I'm not even going to second guess it. I'm getting in the car and I'm going to go to that store. And it's somehow just going to work out. There is just a belief system buildup from all of these manifested experiences of intuition that are giving you a greater and greater foundation upon which to take bigger and bigger leaps that follow your intuition. And this is a really important point for a human because the chorus is looking at this from their vantage point. And as usual, these things probably seem very close together to them. It's like, there you are in your five senses body, and you're basically right on top of your intuition too. But from our vantage point in the game, there's a distance. There's a distance between the sort of edge, the barrier, or the limits of our five senses, and then where and how to get to that place where we live in that intuition. And as we talked about last week, every time a human manifests an experience, that experience of the manifestation builds beliefs. This is what we talked about last week as the origins of the concept of the karmic wheel is that our existence here is cyclical, meaning we are the embodiment of a belief system, which causes the manifestations, which results in the manifestations being perceived in a certain way through the five senses. And then our perception of that manifestation through the five senses builds beliefs. So it is a constant reinforcement of the limitation of our existence here, which was required to sort of continually rebuff the new and infinite that was flowing in, that is flowing into us all the time. And some folks reflected to us, hey, you are living in sort of a cyclical energetic experience. And that understanding evolved over time or came down to us as the idea of the karmic wheel. So here we're talking about that same concept, but in a way that we're using it to our advantage. And by advantage, I mean, if you want to expand, if that's the direction of your path of preference, you do not need to undo the karmic wheel because that might take a while. All you have to do is bring this stuff to consciousness and move in the direction you want to move in. And you will find that these things are no longer limiting because you are no longer looking at them from a limited perspective. So here we all are, awakening to our five senses experience of reality. And somewhere over there, just over there, we see our intuition. We know it exists. We like the idea of it. We've had these powerful experiences, a couple of our intuition being right, and we want to move in that direction. Well, each time that you have an experience of your intuition being accurate in this sort of step 2 of the process, each time you follow your intuition and then realize that it did know something that you didn't know, or that it did feel this way, each time you manifest an experience like that, you are building beliefs. And those beliefs are new and different and walking you towards a new and expanded experience of your own intuition. And so that's why I think this second phase is so powerful, but it can also take a little bit of time. Is that you move from being curious about your intuition, about what is this? And why do I feel like I really need to go here? And I don't know, but I'm just going to do it. Right. And then you build a manifestation, and then you build a belief, build a belief, build a belief until over time you move to a place of trust, of trusting that you won't know why your intuition is telling you to go in a particular direction until you go in that direction. And then going in that direction gets easier and easier and easier because you are standing on a growing pathway of beliefs that support you in taking that, what you might call leap of faith, of doing a thing without any five senses manifestations to support you in that. Because last time it worked, and the time before that it worked, and the time before that it worked. And so this time my intuition is telling me something that feels super crazy. Like I never would normally just follow my intuition on a big expense or a big risk. But I don't know. I followed my intuition all these other times and it worked out pretty well. So this time I'm supported in taking an even bigger leap to follow my intuition. And then thus your trust has been built, is sustained, is supported by beliefs that are at your disposal because of the cyclical way that belief building works here. So you had a manifestation that built a belief. You had a manifestation that built a belief. And then you are on your way to trusting more and more of your intuitions. So step 1, you realize intuition exists. You realize there's this feeling that's there, that's beyond the five senses. The second step, you move through experiences of realizing, of witnessing, of experiencing the accuracy of intuition, the ability of intuition. And then the third and final step to me, well, final in an infinite universe is kind of a laugh, but you see what I'm saying. The third and final sort of experience of intuition before you sort of start to access, I would say, other levels of your energetic toolbox is that intuition becomes simultaneous with the five senses. This is what the chorus was talking about a little bit in their message today in saying, Once you start realizing that intuition is there and working, there's probably going to be a part of you that sort of just wants to move everything over into the intuition camp and be done with the five senses. And they suggested that that part of you is the part of you that is still active in the five senses. Because remember, what we resist persists. That is one of the ways in which we have reinforced the limitation of the game, is by believing that the things that we don't want, we have to push against. I know many of you understand this topic energetically, right? Where you put your attention to is what you get more of. And so if you are trying to stop, if you are trying to prevent, if you're trying to fight against something, you are simply energizing the thing that you are fighting against. And so they said, as you go forward, you'll probably notice a part of you that has a tendency to want to stop or change or get rid of this other stuff that you don't want. And just remember that that's the part of you that is still active in the limitation of the game as you expand from that point of limitation. And so I think this to me is sort of a third phase of intuition, because it's not necessarily like once you build that bridge over to using your intuition all the time, you sort of just cut the rope and then off floats away the five senses. As much as we may wish that would happen, as much as we wish we could just drink the Harry Potter lotion and float through our days on a cloud, that's not exactly expansion. Our consciousness is expanding to take in more of different frequencies at the same time. You will get to a point where you are simultaneously aware of what your intuition is telling you and what your five senses are telling you. And here's where I would suggest that both are valid. So let's go back to that conversation that you were having with the friend. And maybe by this point in time, you know that your intuition is there. Step one, you have understood through more and more experiences that it is often accurate. And so your trust is growing. Step two. And so here you are standing in front of the friend and they are acting so happy and so buoyant, but your intuition is telling you that they are nervous, that they are stressed. And you know the direction it's coming from because your intuition will tell you that the more you trust it. So the more experiences you have of intuition, the clearer the intuition actually becomes. And so you're sort of like, wow, is this really happening? I mean, I know what's happening. Here he or she is, facial expressions are happy, tone of voice is happy, five senses is telling me a very clear story. But then also, I have this sense, this feeling of stress and anxiety. And also, I have this sense that it's coming from my friend. Like, wow, my intuition has never been more clear. And they're both there. And you're perceiving them both simultaneously. The intuition becomes clearer and clearer. It's not that the five senses disappears and disappears. It's that both become equals in a sense. Both become as clear, as tangible as the other. Imagine that. Imagine you can go through life with intuition being as tangible to you as something that you see with your own eyes. Equal footing. And someone says, how do you know that? How do you have that sensation? And you say, how do I know it? How do you see something? You see something with your eyes, you intuit something with your intuition. I mean, it's kind of just there, right? And so this is that third and final phase of you get to a point where these things no longer compete or you no longer waffle between them. like, oh, I'm kind of distracted by the five senses. Wow, what's this intuition, right? We go through a phase of oscillation for quite some time as we're getting familiar with these different capacities of ourselves. And then you'll reach this point where it's simultaneous and they're both coming through to you very, very clearly. So now you've finished your 3-step process of intuition. Here's your certificate. I'm giving you a virtual certificate. You have been through the class on intuition. And you're standing in front of your friend and you have your shiny new certificate in your back pocket. And then the thought occurs to you, what do I do? What do I say to this friend? Do I react on the five senses aspect of the conversation? And do I smile and am I happy for her too? Or do I listen to the intuition that I'm getting about this moment, about the energetic underpinnings of this moment, as the chorus said? And do I say something to the effect of, hey, that sounds really great, but how you doing? How you doing otherwise? What's going on? Are you nervous about something? Right? Which way do you go? I think this is something important that the chorus mentioned today is that intuition is not necessarily action. Intuition is the understanding of the energetic aspects of the things that you are experiencing. It is the theme. It is the thematic understory to whatever it is that you're looking at or seeing or hearing or touching. I know we have this idea of the golden potion, but intuition is not yet necessarily about the action. Intuition is about the knowing. And you'll say, what the hell good is that? Are you telling me I went through this 3-step process and now I'm standing in front of my friend and I won't know what to do in that situation? Sort of. Allow me to answer your question with a question. You ready? Which part of you thinks there's anything you need to do at all? When you see your friend having an experience of a dichotomy where she is expressing joy and happiness, but maybe feeling anxiety or nerves, is that not perfectly in her control? Is there something that you need to do to fix that? Why is there something inside of you that is telling you that you must seek out and address things that hurt? So you see, even in an expansive experience of intuition, you can still look through the lens of limitation if you like. But you don't have to. As the chorus is pointing out, you can receive more of this information. You can receive more of this thematic knowing and allow it to exist without needing to feel like you need to do anything about it. So this is what I would ask. As you're standing there in that moment, as you are realizing all the things from the five senses frequencies and this new energetic story that is coming to you through intuition, can you trust the perspective that you have expanded into? Can you trust that there's nothing that you need to do about that expanded perspective, but that simply by the light of your consciousness shining on these two things at once, you offer a light to your friend, and she might take it or she might not, because she might still be having a powerful experience of dichotomy, of beliefs, of limitation, of the idea of social norms, of how to behave happily in front of others, of how to have parts of our psyche that we ignore, of suffering. that she might be having a powerful experience that you are only just awakening to. But by witnessing it, not only has she given you an expansive experience, but you have shared with her energetically a new perspective. Said another way, do you think you now better understand your friend by only seeing her through the lens of the five senses, or by only seeing her through the lens of your intuition, or by your new ability to see both, and in this case, contrasting aspects of who she is in that moment? As you come to a more full and rich place of being able to experience intuition, you find that it's not a single thing. It's not an intuition. It's the constant, dynamic, ever expanding perception of ongoing energy that supports and underlies the reality we experience on our five senses levels all the time. Your consciousness is expanding to the perception of more. You don't need to do anything about that more. You don't need to fix that more. Your clarity will simply expand by way of you expanding into that more. I hope you understand that I'm teasing you when I say it's a 3-step process, because friends, your awakening and expansion is inevitable, and it's already happening. By simply allowing this expanded perspective to come through to you, your knowledge, your intuition, your sense of all the things around you will grow in such a way that from a five senses standpoint, it could almost be construed as magic. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you found these messages to be helpful. May they accelerate you on your path wherever you'd like it to go. For more information, check out our website at katieandthechorus.com. There you will find show quotes, episode transcripts, details on our book, The Book of Human Awakening, as well as our newsletter sign up. Visit katieandthechorus.com. Thanks again. See you next time.